Every day, we hear about thousands of strange, horrifying, or downright unbelievable events around the world. However, a recent news story out of California didn't just shock animal lovers, it deeply shook anyone with a conscience. In Humboldt County, located in Northern California, a staggering 117 dog corpses were unearthed from the grounds of a facility that advertised itself as a no-kill animal shelter and sanctuary. So how did a center supposedly dedicated to saving animals turn into a mass grave site? Is this story just a case of animal abuse, or is there a massive fraud ring worth hundreds of thousands of dollars operating behind the scenes? Today, we are going to examine this bone-chilling event along with the allegations behind the curtain. If you are ready, let's dive in. The place at the center of this scandal is called Miranda's Rescue. It was a well-known facility in the region where people confidently surrendered their pets or made donations. The founder of the facility is a man named Shannon Miranda. For years, he appeared on TV screens and in newspapers, capitalizing on the narrative of "We save lives here. Even if we run out of space, we never euthanize an animal." However, the flip side of the coin hid an absolute atrocity. During excavations conducted by police and sheriff's deputies using ground-penetrating radar and heavy machinery, 117 fully intact dog corpses were recovered from the shelter's property. The situation didn't end there. At various spots across the land, 21 dog skulls, hundreds of bone fragments, and 6 buried, unclaimed microchips were identified. According to the statement released by the sheriff's office, the findings do not point to natural deaths or routine burials. Mobilized X-ray devices were used on site to scan 70 of the recovered dog bodies, and bullet fragments were discovered inside many of them. This indicates that a significant portion of these dogs were killed by being shot in the head or chest. Furthermore, teams discovered an area inside a barn on the farm suspected to be an execution death room for the dogs, and more than 600 dog collars were seized right next to this area. The picture before us is, quite literally, an industrial-scale slaughter. Naturally, you might ask, how did such a massive atrocity remain hidden for years? This is where two vigilant neighbors and animal rights activists step in. These two individuals became suspicious of the strange noises coming from the backyard of the shelter and the unusual movements on the property at night. They placed hidden cameras on trees along the shelter's property line. The footage captured by the cameras was so alarming that the two activists secretly slipped onto the land one night, dug up the soil, exhumed several dog carcasses through their own efforts, and reported the situation to the police. Based on this concrete evidence, the police secured a sweeping search warrant and raided the facility. Humboldt County Sheriff William Hansel told the press that the situation they encountered was one of the most horrific organized crime scenes I have seen in my career. So, what does Shannon Miranda, the shelter owner at the center of all these allegations, have to say? He published a lengthy statement on his website, completely denying the accusations. He argued that the media was distorting the facts and maintained that the shelter was still loyal to its no-kill philosophy. According to Miranda's claim, these buried dogs had either died of old age, suffered from incurable terminal illnesses, or were highly aggressive dogs that attacked people and could not be rehabilitated, meaning they were euthanized through humane methods. However, the hundreds of bullet fragments and hidden mass graves found by the police completely dismantle this humane euthanasia defense. So why did these people do this? Why would someone claim they are saving dogs only to line them up and shoot them in a field? This is where the dark economic cycle of the shelter system in America comes into play. In America, municipal shelters in major metropolitan regions, like the San Francisco Bay Area, are incredibly overcrowded. These shelters are often forced to euthanize animals to free up space. At this exact juncture, private no-kill shelters like Miranda's Rescue step in. They go to these large shelters and say, "Don't kill these dogs, transfer them to us, and we will care for them and find them homes." Of course, they don't do this for free. In exchange for these transfers, they collect hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars in transfer fees and maintenance grants per animal from both the government and large foundations. The primary theory that investigators are focusing on is this: This shelter collected dogs from big cities under the guise of rescuing them, pocketed hundreds of thousands of dollars in funding and donations through these dogs, and then, when the shelter ran out of space or to avoid maintenance costs, lined these animals up in the back barn, shot them, and buried them in the ground. In other words, what we are facing is not just an act of animal cruelty, but a massive scheme of grand fraud built upon the lives of living creatures. As of right now, there is no official finalized criminal case or arrest because the police are meticulously analyzing the 600 seized collars, microchips, and hundreds of bones in the forensic lab. Due to the sheer scale of the case, it is stated that completing the investigation could take months. This incident reminds us of a very bitter truth. Not every sign that reads "No Kill, Animal Protection Society" or "Sanctuary" actually harbors compassion behind it. In this California field, we have witnessed just how brutal people can become for their own financial gain when hiding behind a lack of oversight, non-transparent donation systems, and populist rhetoric. We hope that justice is served and those responsible are held accountable for these lives. Goodbye.